There comes a moment in every life, a moment when you have two choices. Keep living the story that's destroying you, or begin writing one that could save you. This isn't a podcast about perfection. It's about truth. Because every comeback begins the moment we stop lying to ourselves. I'm Peter Herweg, and this is the Comeback Code. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about the lie behind my mask and what this represented in my life. I often told myself I was in control. I could stop whenever I wanted. Perhaps tomorrow would be different. I also told myself I didn't really need help because I was functioning quite perfectly on my own. But behind that mask, I realize now that I was probably hiding my own pain, my own shame, the fear that I wasn't ready to handle. I was certainly hiding the fact that I needed to change. The word "I need help" never, ever existed in my vocabulary because I didn't think I needed help. But the honest truth is that I'd probably lost control. I couldn't do this alone. Recovery was difficult for me. Being honest with myself was difficult for me. But alcohol wasn't the pain. Alcohol was the anesthetic. And the question I asked myself wasn't why I was drinking. It was what I was trying desperately not to feel. I didn't wear the mask to fool others. I wore it because I wasn't ready to face the man looking back at me in the mirror. I didn't like myself, but I didn't know how to change myself. Everything that happened with me, with my life, with the fact that I was an alcoholic, determined who and where I was going. I've got this. I'm in control. Were words that I used so often. But yet I was desperately looking for help, but I didn't know how to ask for it. So instead of raising my hand, being honest with myself, and asking for help, I just put on a mask. That mask represented safety. It represented the fact that I was crumbling within myself, but I had to show society that I was okay. I wasn't okay. I wasn't okay at all. But I feared the shame. I feared the ridicule. And I feared the fact that society would see me as being weak, that I couldn't control my own inner thoughts, inner feelings. So that became my mask. The mask was my protector. I was the life of the party. I was the life of any occasion. But when I reflect back on that, I was merely lying to myself. I was actually lying to myself about how bad it was. But I wasn't ready to admit. I was not ready to admit the fact that I needed assistance, I needed help, I needed guidance. And lying to yourself is probably one of the most common words, phrases, go-tos that most addicts utilize. And I'm not most addicts. I'm merely myself. So this podcast is really about the lies I told myself within my addiction. I had it all together. I was a functioning alcoholic. To the point where I got to a stage in my life where I didn't get the hangovers any longer. I didn't get the pain. I didn't get the fear. Because my life had spiraled to a point where the bottle was my go-to, not my family. I didn't want advice. I didn't want somebody to tell me that if we do this, this would be the outcome. Because I knew the outcome. I knew where I wanted to go. I thought I knew who I wanted to be. But it wasn't the case. And for me, it was about hiding the crumble. I hurt people. I hurt my own family. I hurt friends. And when you are going through that stage of being an alcoholic, an addict, you've got many, many friends. But are those friends true friends? Or are they enablers? That's a question I ask myself. And that's a question you can ask yourself. Fast forward to my initial recovery period. And you realize that those that you thought were friends were actually not. Because they left. I felt like they left me hanging. I felt like they had deserted me. I kept questioning myself, thinking, what did I do that they're no longer friends with me? But with hindsight, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because those people were only friends because of what I had to offer, what I had to give at that particular stage. And that was loads of alcohol, party time, music. And that actually hurt. That hurt a lot. And it took me a long time to get over that. Because I always thought these people were friends. They were here for life. They were my best buddies. But those buddies left. They were no longer in my life. And it became a norm for me not to have any friends. what I did behind my mask was I purely lied to myself. And I realized that I didn't wear the mask to fool other people. I wore it because I wasn't ready to face the person I'd become. The mask wasn't hiding me from the world. It was hiding me from myself. And dropping that mask was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Because it exposed my weaknesses. It exposed my fears. It exposed the reality that I was spiraling out of control. And that hurt the most. I didn't realize that I was in such turmoil. And to be honest with you, I didn't think I could get out of it. I didn't think I could get out of that rut. I wasn't going to be able to escape this. And speaking to professionals, how are you? No, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. I'm okay, thank you. When I really wasn't. And to this day, I still don't like that phrase, I'm fine. Because I know what it meant to me. If I didn't have anything else to say, I would merely say, I'm fine. And I actually wasn't. This podcast isn't a one-size-fits-all. This is not me, Peter Herweg, telling you that if I can do it, you can do it. Because I simply detest that phrase. I've never walked in your shoes. I've never walked on the path you're walking on. I can only speak about my path, about my shoes, and what it meant to me as a person. Because I don't think I was really a person during my time of addiction. I was just going through the motion. I was purely living because I wasn't anywhere else. I wasn't the person who I am today. I certainly am not, was not, will never be. So for me, wearing that mask was my comfort. It was almost my comfort blankie. Because I knew when the mask went up, I was okay. I could face the world. The anesthetic that numbed the pain was in a bottle. It was in a bottle that I could purchase so freely and so easily. I didn't need a script for it. And that numbed every single pain, every single memory I had of that particular day, of that particular event. And I remember studying at an institution where I was properly roasted, because I was unprepared, through no fault of anybody else but my own. And after my roasting, I remember going back to my car and not learning a lesson about the roasting. Because all I did was I took the bottle out of my cubbyhole and I downed it. I finished it. There went the pain. There went all the shame that I just bestowed upon myself. It was gone. It was pretty simple. It was gone. And to tell you the truth, in that particular moment, it felt good. Because I'd forgotten. I'd given up. I didn't have to worry about that trauma that was bestowed upon me through my own fault as well. It wasn't like I was letting anybody else down. I'd let myself down. But hell, who cares? I just had something else to fall back on. So the mask was me protecting myself from what I didn't want to face, what I didn't want to know about, or what I'd been through and wanted to forget. I look at the mask that I use in my motivational speaking engagements. And to tell you the truth, I look at that mask and I think, I wore you because I was afraid of what's outside, what's behind. That mask was me. But what was in front of that mask was a so-called guy who was doing well, had it all together, had everything in the palm of his hands. And that was the lie I was telling myself. That was the lie that I was living. That's where I found myself, who I thought I was, who I wanted to be. I wanted to be the life of the party. I wanted to be the guy that had everything. I wanted everything. Yet I had nothing. And although this sounds harsh, it's a reality that I had to face. It's a reality that I had to make peace with. In coping now, the mechanisms are very different. Previously, I wouldn't analyze what had happened, why it happened, and how it happened. I now do that, and sometimes the answers are there. Sometimes I need to search for the answers. I need to find them. Or I need to ask for help. I'm not 100% sure on how to resolve this issue. Could you perhaps guide me along the way? How difficult was that? How difficult was it to ask somebody else to assist you? Well, it wasn't. It isn't. But it used to be. It used to be very difficult for me. And the mask represented who I thought I wanted to be. So if you're wearing a mask, if you're feeling like I felt, I hear you and I understand you. I certainly understand you. Because I went through this for many, many, many years. But you're not alone. You're never alone. And just like everything else in life, we don't see the opportunities when we're wearing the mask. We don't understand that they are still there. We just can't or don't want to see them. That was the mask I wore. That is who I was. I'm not proud of the mask I wore, but it's a reality and it's a fact. I can't change yesterday. I can't rewrite yesterday. Yesterday is cast in stone. There's nothing I can do about yesterday. But I can certainly change tomorrow. Because I'm the author of my own book. I write my next chapter. I write the chapter to the best of my ability and let it unfold day by day. And there will always be changes to that chapter. We cannot write our book and expect that this chapter will be 100% lived or 100% adhered to. And that is where you become the author. Nobody else gets to write in your book, unless you want them to. But that's your decision. Nobody can tell you what to write, because you are the author of your own book. So if today's conversation challenged you, don't leave it here. Sit with it. Talk about it. Live it. Because change doesn't happen when we hear the truth. It happens when we choose to live it. I'm Peter Herwig. This is the Comeback Code. We can't write yesterday, but we can write a different tomorrow. Till next time.